The airport was busy that morning. People rushed through the gates with bags, phones, and coffee in hand. But among the noise and motion, one man walked calmly. His name was Mr. Roman Ellis. He wasn't loud. He didn't carry fancy luggage or wear shiny jewelry. But something about him was powerful. He wore a clean-fitted navy blue suit. His shoes were polished. In one hand, he held a slim black briefcase. In the other, a phone. As he reached the gate for Flight 706, the staff didn't even look at him. A young lady in uniform glanced once, then waved him through without a smile. He nodded politely and walked down the jet bridge. Inside the plane, the air was cooler, quieter. The crew was preparing drinks. A few early passengers were already seated, in first class, flipping through magazines or watching their screens. Mr. Ellis found his seat, 1A, by the window. He placed his briefcase under the seat, sat down, and gently adjusted his coat. Then he closed his eyes for a moment, breathing in peace. But the peace didn't last long. A man and woman sitting across the aisle stared at him. The woman leaned close to her husband and whispered, "He must be in the wrong seat." The man gave a short laugh. "First class? That doesn't seem likely," he said, not even bothering to lower his voice. A nearby flight attendant, tall, and wearing a tight bun, walked past and suddenly stopped. She looked at Mr. Ellis from head to toe, as if scanning a mistake. "Excuse me, sir," she said sharply. "Are you sure you're in the right section? This is first class." Mr. Ellis opened his eyes slowly and gave a small smile. "Yes, I'm in seat 1A, he replied, handing her the boarding pass. She looked at it, paused, then laughed. Not a kind laugh, a mocking one. She turned slightly and waved over another crew member. "Hey, look at this," she said. "He says he's in 1A. The second attendant looked confused. "Let me see." They both checked the ticket again. "It's correct," the second one said quietly. But the first shook her head. "He must have been upgraded by accident. I'll call it in." Mr. Ellis remained calm. He didn't move. He simply reached for his phone and placed it on his lap. More passengers were boarding now. A businessman in a gray suit walked past, glanced, "Get Mr. Ellis," then chuckled. "People like him don't fly first class," the man said loudly, not caring who heard. Several others looked toward Mr. Ellis. Some frowned, some smirked. A teenage boy even pulled out his phone and began recording, but Mr. Ellis didn't speak. He looked at no one. He just stared at the phone screen in front of him. The flight attendant came back again, this time with a gate supervisor. "Sir," the supervisor began, not even introducing himself, "I believe there's been a mistake. Can you please step into the aisle so we can sort this out?" "I have my ticket," Mr. Ellis said softly. "It clearly says seat 1A. "Yes, but," the supervisor began. Mr. Ellis raised a hand gently. "No need to explain," he said. "Is this your final decision?" The supervisor paused. "Yes, unless you can prove—" "I've already shown you my ticket," Mr. Ellis said. "But if you wish to proceed this way, I'll make a call." He reached down, unlocked his phone, and made a single tap. No one knew who he was calling. No one knew what would happen next. But the calm in his voice, the way he moved, the stillness in his eyes, it made people nervous. The rude businessman across the aisle suddenly looked uncomfortable. The couple that had laughed earlier stopped whispering. The teenage boy lowered his phone. And the flight attendant? She looked at the gate supervisor and whispered, "Something's off." But it was too late now. Mr. Ellis had made the call. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't shout. All he said was, "It's me. It happened again." Then he added 3 quiet words, "Do what's necessary." The plane was silent. Everyone waited. But Mr. Ellis? The phone call ended, but its silence echoed louder than any words. Mr. Roman Ellis placed his phone back in his pocket without a word. The calmness in his face didn't match the tension rising around him. Passengers exchanged looks. Some curious, some nervous, and a few, like the couple across the aisle, still smirking, but less confident than before. The flight attendant who had mocked him stood frozen for a moment. Then she forced a laugh and said to the supervisor, "It's fine, let him sit." We'll double-check with corporate later. The supervisor nodded, confused. Yeah, all right. Just don't cause any trouble, sir. Mr. Ellis gave a small, polite nod. I never do. As they walked away, whispering between themselves, Mr. Ellis looked back out the window, peaceful once again. But something had changed. He wasn't just another passenger anymore. People noticed him now. Not because he was loud or rude, but because he was too calm, too still, like a man who had nothing to prove, but held all the power. A middle-aged woman in business class leaned forward, whispering to the person beside her. Did you see how they treated him? He had the right seat. Another voice replied, Yeah, but did you see his face when he made that call? I think they're in trouble. Meanwhile, in the galley, the flight attendant was panicking. I don't like this, she whispered. To the co-pilot who was passing through. He made a call, then just sat back like he's in charge of something. The co-pilot raised an eyebrow. Who's he calling at 7 a.m. on a Sunday that makes him that confident? She shrugged. I don't know, but I've got a bad feeling. Back in first class, the rude businessman who earlier mocked Mr. Ellis now kept glancing over. He tried to act like he wasn't afraid, but the way he shifted in his seat told another story. Mr. Ellis, on the other hand, remained motionless. He didn't speak. He didn't look at anyone. He just waited. A young man in economy watched the whole scene through the gap between the seats. He leaned toward his girlfriend and said, This guy's something else. Did you see how everyone backed off after the call? His girlfriend nodded. Yeah, whoever he called, it must have been someone big. In the cockpit, the captain received a notification on his screen. A message from corporate security. It simply read, Pause boarding. Flight 706 under immediate review. Do not depart. The captain frowned. What's going on? The co-pilot asked. The captain slowly turned. Someone just pulled a lever from way up. This isn't normal protocol. Back in the cabin, boarding had suddenly stopped. A line of confused passengers waited at the gate. No announcements, no updates, just silence. Then, a new figure walked onto the plane. He wore a dark suit, carried no luggage, and had an ID badge clipped to his belt that read, Special Affairs Division, Director Level. The same rude businessman who had mocked Mr. Ellis earlier went pale. He sank into his seat, realizing something serious was happening. The director walked straight to Mr. Ellis without a glance at anyone else. Mr. Ellis, he said with respect in his voice. Are you all right, sir? Mr. Ellis finally looked up. Yes, he said softly. The director nodded, then turned to the flight crew. May I have a word with your lead attendant and captain? The lead flight attendant, now visibly nervous, stepped forward. That would be me. Come with me, the man said coldly. As they walked to the front, passengers whispered again. Who is this man? Why are they talking to him like he's the owner? He didn't even raise his voice. And now everyone's scared? Back in the galley, the director spoke quietly but clearly. You've made a mistake. A very serious one. Mr. Ellis is not just any passenger. But before he could finish, the cabin door opened again. Another figure stepped in. A tall black woman in a gray skirt suit. She wore a badge, too. Her voice rang out across the first-class cabin. Excuse me, everyone. I'm Vanessa Hart, Vice President of Airline Operations. This flight has been grounded until further notice. Passengers gasped. The rude businessman looked like he might faint. The teenage boy recording earlier stopped his camera, stunned. And Mr. Ellis? He smiled for the first time. Just a small one. The airline was just beginning to understand. They had boarded the wrong man. Passengers were silent. No one moved, no one complained. No one dared even ask for water. All eyes were on Mr. Roman Ellis, the calm black man in seat 1A. The man who had made one quiet phone call. And now the airline's vice president was standing on the plane. Ms. Vanessa Hart, tall and professional, didn't smile. She turned to the crew with a cold look. Where's the flight supervisor? The lead flight attendant stepped forward, visibly shaking. I'm right here. Vanessa handed her a tablet. Watch this. The crew stared at the screen. It showed security footage, the exact moment when Mr. Ellis was mocked, laughed at, and told to go back to economy. The audio was clear. Then came a second video, phone recordings from passengers. Some had captured the rude businessman saying, "People like him don't fly first class." The crew looked pale. Vanessa looked at them, eyes sharp. "Would you treat a white man in a suit the same way?" No one answered. The co-pilot mumbled, "We didn't know who he was." Vanessa snapped, "That's the problem. You thought he had to be someone to deserve respect." Meanwhile, Mr. Ellis hadn't moved, still sitting in 1A, still calm, still silent. But something changed in the air, a shift in power. People now looked at him with respect. Others looked at him with shame. The rude businessman cleared his throat. Sir," he said to Ellis, "I just wanted to say I didn't mean anything personal." Mr. Ellis looked at him, finally speaking. "I know exactly what you meant," he said softly. "You said it loud and clear." The man shrank in his seat. At that moment, a new message flashed across the captain's control screen. "Urgent. Flight 706 is now under full internal investigation. Passenger in 1A is registered as primary stakeholder and silent CEO of—" "You know what this means?" The co-pilot blinked. "He owns the company." "Not just owns it," the captain said. "He built it." Back in the cabin, Ms. Hart addressed the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are deeply sorry for the delay. This flight will not continue today. Please collect your belongings. A new aircraft is being prepared, and upgraded seats will be arranged for all passengers. Full refunds will also be processed." Gasps filled the cabin. The teenage boy whispered to his mom, "This guy just shut down the whole airline operation, with one call." Ms. Hart then turned to Mr. Ellis. "Sir, may I speak with you privately?" Mr. Ellis nodded and stood. As he walked through the aisle, everyone moved aside, silently respecting the man they once judged. They walked into the captain's lounge, a quiet, private area near the cockpit. Vanessa closed the door. "I'm sorry, Roman," she said, using his first name now. "They had no idea who you were, but even if you were just any man, what they did was still wrong." Mr. Ellis finally relaxed his shoulders. "I don't want their jobs," he said, "but I want to change. This culture of disrespect, of judging people by race or clothes, it needs to stop. If I hadn't made that call, what would have happened?" Vanessa looked down. "You'd have been kicked off the plane." Mr. Ellis nodded. "Exactly." He then handed her a folder. "These are my notes. I've been flying undercover for 2 months. Different routes, different crews, watching how we treat people." Vanessa flipped through the folder and her face changed. This is powerful." He looked her in the eye. "We're not just fixing this one flight, we're fixing the whole company." Outside, the flight crew waited nervously. The rude businessman stood at the gate, still embarrassed. And the passengers? They didn't just leave with refund slips or upgraded tickets. They left with a story about a man who didn't shout, didn't fight, didn't need revenge, just a phone call, a little patience, and the truth. The new flight was now boarding from a different gate. Passengers from the canceled flight were quiet. Some whispered. Some looked ashamed. But most were still thinking about Mr. Roman Ellis, the man in seat 1A who didn't raise his voice, yet made a phone call that stopped the entire airline. But where was he now? While everyone else waited at the gate, Mr. Ellis was still in the private lounge, sitting calmly across from Vanessa Hart, the airline's vice president. A thick file sat between them, filled with 2 months of secret reports, notes, dates, even names. "You've been flying. Like a mystery passenger?" Vanessa asked. Mr. Ellis nodded. "Yes. No private jets, no assistants. I wanted to see how my airline treats everyday people." Vanessa opened the folder and read. Crew Chaka 224 laughed at a woman in a wheelchair. Gate agent refused to help an elderly man because he didn't speak English well. Black teen asked for help. Staff ignored her. 3 employees judged customers based on clothes, skin, and accents. Her hands trembled. "Roman, this is bad." Mr. Ellis looked out the window, then replied, "This is truth, and I'm not just a CEO. I'm a black man who built this company from nothing. If this is how we treat people, then I've failed." Vanessa said softly, "You haven't failed, but you've seen what we all tried to ignore." Mr. Ellis stood and walked to the window. Planes moved on the runway. A father held his daughter's hand. A crew member smiled politely at a white businessman walking by, but ignored a tired black woman carrying luggage. "See?" Mr. Ellis whispered. "It's happening. Right now." Suddenly, his phone rang. He answered. "Yes, connect the call." He turned back to Vanessa. "I'm activating Operation Reclaim." Her eyes widened. "That's the emergency company-wide protocol." He nodded. "It is now." 2 minutes later, the airline's headquarters was buzzing. Every monitor flashed red. Every manager's phone rang. A message appeared on every screen. Notice: immediate audit ordered. All crew behavior, customer service, and boarding actions under full review. CEO Roman Ellis will personally oversee changes. Back at the airport, news reporters began gathering. The story had leaked. A black man denied first class, who turned out to be the owner of the entire airline, was now rewriting every policy. Meanwhile, the original flight crew, the same ones who mocked Mr. Ellis, were asked to wait in a small office. They sat silently. The rude businessman who made the comment, he was removed from the new flight and placed under behavior review by the airline's legal team. Turns out he was a VIP guest on a loyalty program, now permanently banned. In the lounge, Mr. Ellis spoke gently. "We're not just running a business," he said. "We're shaping how people treat each other at 30,000 feet. Up there are no cities, no borders, no race lines, just sky. Everyone should feel safe." Vanessa wiped her eyes. "What should we call this new program?" He thought for a moment, then said, "Respect altitude." She smiled. "I like that." Mr. Ellis turned to leave but stopped at the door. "One more thing," he said. "I want to speak to the entire company, all departments, ground staff, crew, cleaners, mechanics, everyone." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "A live video address?" He nodded. "Yes. Tonight, back at the new gate, passengers boarded quietly. But the air felt different. People greeted each other kindly. Some helped elders with bags. Even the new crew seemed more careful, more respectful. And in the corner of the terminal, a teenage boy looked up at his mom and said, "Mom, do you think he's coming back?" His mom smiled gently. "He never left, baby. He's just higher than the plane now." That night, the entire airline industry went quiet. Every screen at every airport gate, every break room, every pilot's lounge, every office in the tall glass headquarters. All of them now displayed the same image. Live stream. Message from CEO Roman Ellis. The company had never done this before. And no one, not even top executives, knew what Mr. Ellis was going to say. But in just 5 minutes, over 90,000 staff members were watching. The camera turned on. Mr. Ellis sat alone, in a simple room. No desk, no luxury backdrop. Just a chair, a mic, and his calm face. He looked straight into the camera and began. "Most of you don't know me. You see my name on your paycheck. You've heard stories about the black man who rose from nothing to build an airline. But today, I'm not here as a CEO. I'm here as a passenger, as a father, as a black man who bought a first-class seat and was told to go back." Everyone watching sat still. Even janitors paused to listen. I didn't yell, I didn't argue. I made one phone call and I shut down the flight. But the problem didn't start on that plane. It started the moment we stopped treating people like people. He leaned forward. "We are not just flying planes, we are carrying stories, families, dreams. You never know who is sitting in seat 34B or walking slowly in gate C. That man in line could be a soldier returning home. That woman asking for help could be a cancer survivor. That child crying in the aisle might have just lost a parent. And yes, The black man in seat 1A might be the man who signs your check. Reactions were instant in offices across the country. Employees froze. One gate agent in Chicago cried softly. She had once ignored a woman with an accent, and now remembered it clearly. In Dallas, a young flight attendant whispered, "That's the same man we laughed at." In Atlanta, a janitor nodded proudly. He'd once helped an old man find his gate, and now felt seen. Mr. Ellis continued, "Starting today, I'm launching a new mission. It's called Respect Altitude. Not just about flying high in the air, but rising higher in how we treat people." He held up a small white card. "Every employee will carry this. Not a rule book, not a script, just 5 words. See the human, serve with heart. You have power, not just to serve food or scan tickets, but to change someone's day. If I ever sit in seat 1A again, I want to know that the man in 45C gets treated with the same respect. Because that's real leadership. Not from above, but from within." The speech ended. The silence spoke. The video went dark. No music. No applause, just silence. But across the world, hearts were full. One mechanic in Denver clapped alone in the break room. A crew in New York hugged. A former passenger, the black teen once ignored by staff, shared the video online. It went viral in hours. Then something happened. Thousands of messages flooded the airline. "Thank you for standing up for us. I'll fly your airline forever now. This is what real leadership looks like." I cried watching that. My son saw himself in you. Even other CEOs from different airlines posted messages of support, and inside the company, staff members started doing something strange. They smiled more. They helped more. They listened more. Not because of a rule, because of Roman Ellis's story. The morning after Mr. Ellis's powerful speech, the atmosphere inside the airline headquarters changed completely. The glass building was no longer just a place for meetings and flights. It had become a place of truth. One by one, employees began to receive messages on their phones and emails. The subject line was clear. "Meeting with Mr. Ellis, immediate." No one knew what to expect. Some were nervous, others were angry. Many were confused. The first to arrive, the first person called was Mr. Jacobs, a senior flight attendant known for his harsh behavior toward passengers. He sat in the waiting room, hands shaking. His face was pale. A young assistant came and said, "Mr. Jacobs, Mr. Ellis will see you now." He walked into a simple room. No cameras. No audience. Mr. Ellis was calm but serious. "Mr. Jacobs," he began, "I want to talk about what happened on Flight 237. Jacobs swallowed hard. "I heard the stories. The way you treated passengers, and especially Mr. Langston, the man in seat 1A. Mr. Jacobs tried to defend himself. "Sir, I was just doing my job. First class is for people who look the part." Mr. Ellis looked straight at him. "Do you understand why that was wrong?" Jacobs nodded slowly. "I do now. And I want to help. You change." One by one throughout the day, more employees arrived. The rude businessman who said people like Mr. Ellis don't belong in first class. The flight attendant who ignored a crying child in the aisle. The gate agent who refused to help a woman with a stroller. Each of them sat with Mr. Ellis. Some apologized. Some stayed silent. But all listened. The change begins. Mr. Ellis didn't just scold. He asked questions. "How did you feel when you refused help? What made you judge a person by their clothes? Do you think we can do better?" He spoke with kindness and honesty. Many employees began to see themselves in a new light. One young flight attendant, Sarah, said quietly, "I didn't realize how much my actions hurt others. I want to be better." Mr. Ellis smiled gently. "That's all I ask." Behind the scenes outside the meetings, things were shifting fast. Social media buzzed with the hashtag Respect Altitude. Passengers shared stories of kindness and respect. Some airline competitors started copying Mr. Ellis's ideas. News outlets called him the CEO who changed the skies. The staff meeting. At the end of the day, Mr. Ellis gathered all his senior staff in a large conference room. He looked at every face. We have work to do, he said, but we will rebuild this airline, not just with better planes or more flights, but with respect, with kindness, with heart. There were nods all around, no more ignoring, no more judging, only serving, a new beginning. Outside, the sun set over the runway. The airline was no longer just a company. It was a family trying to do better, and Mr. Ellis knew this was only the start. Months had passed since Mr. Ellis's speech. The airline was no longer the same. There were new rules, yes, but more importantly, new hearts. The staff greeted passengers with smiles. They listened carefully. They helped without judgment. The day of the flight one bright morning, Mr. Ellis boarded flight 500. He wasn't in first class this time. He took a seat in economy. Row 34B, passengers noticed him quietly sitting among them. No cameras, no guards, just a man among many, a little girl and her mother. Nearby, a little girl held her mother's hand tightly. The girl looked scared. She was flying for the first time. The mother whispered softly, trying to calm her. A flight attendant approaches. Sarah, the young flight attendant who had changed after Mr. Ellis's meetings, saw them. She knelt down and smiled. "Hi there. It's okay to be scared. I'm here to help." The girl looked up, her eyes wide. Sarah took her hand and showed her the window. "Look, see the clouds? Isn't it beautiful?" The little girl smiled. A man struggling with his bag. In the aisle, a middle-aged man struggled with his carry-on. No one moved to help, Mr. Ellis noticed. He stood up, walked over, and lifted the bag for the man. The man looked surprised but grateful. Respect in every moment. Throughout the flight, the atmosphere was calm and kind. Passengers chatted softly. Flight attendants moved gracefully. Even the pilot smiled when they announced the flight was smooth. The announcement, "As the plane began its descent." The captain's voice came on. "Ladies and gentlemen, this flight is a special one. Our CEO, Mr. Roman Ellis, is with us today. Thanks to him, we have a new promise: to treat every passenger with respect and kindness." Passengers applauded softly. Mr. Ellis smiled, feeling hope for the first time in years. After landing at the airport, many passengers came to thank Mr. Ellis. A young man said, "Thank you for making flying feel safe and kind." A woman said, "My daughter isn't scared anymore." Mr. Ellis listened, grateful. Final reflection. That night, Mr. Ellis stood by the runway. Planes took off into the starry sky. He whispered to himself, "This is just the beginning." The airline was more than a business now. It was a place where everyone mattered.